Hello, my name is Mark van Ryzin, and my research focuses on the power of relationships. In this presentation, I will discuss how I applied the protective power of positive peer relations to reduce bullying in middle school. Research has shown time and again that learning is a social process, and peer relations can play a critical role. Poor peer relations can be a significant risk factor for a variety of negative social-emotional, behavioral, and academic outcomes. Conversely, positive peer relations can be a powerful protective factor. In my research, I use cooperative learning to enhance peer relations. Cooperative learning is more than simply placing students in small groups, however. There are a series of design principles that should be applied when creating a cooperative learning lesson. Specifically, cooperative learning lessons should include several forms of positive interdependence, where students are incentivized to support the learning of others in their group. Lessons should also include individual accountability, where each student in the group has an important role and is held accountable by their teacher and their peers for fulfilling that role. Cooperative learning lessons should also include the explicit development of group social skills, where a skill is scaffolded, observed, and reinforced by the teacher. Finally, lessons should include post-lesson group processing and celebration, where students have the opportunity to discuss what they did well as a group, what they could do better next time, and to give one another positive feedback. When these principles are included in a lesson, the social interactions in small groups are more likely to be positive and supportive when compared to less structured approaches to small group learning. To illustrate the design principles, this slide contrasts cooperative learning with a more informal or unstructured small group lesson, where students are simply told to collaborate to complete an assignment. With this sort of unstructured approach, there is often confusion over roles, little incentive to collaborate, no accountability, and no development of group skills. Such lessons often result in off-task behavior by members of the group, conflict over responsibilities and the allocation of the workload, and poor social and academic outcomes. With cooperative learning, however, each student has an important role in a small group and a specific incentive or a way to gain personally by supporting the success of others in the group. Each group member can be held accountable by the teacher and their peers for their contribution, and there is explicit development of group skills. As a result, cooperative learning promotes interest, engagement, mutual support, and social and academic gains. My research goes further to investigate the downstream effects of these positive social interactions. I recruited 15 middle schools in Oregon and randomly allocated them to either cooperative learning or business as usual. The teacher professional development was provided by David and Roger Johnson, who have conducted research and training in this field for more than 40 years, and are recognizable names to anyone who has worked in this field. We collected data from about 1,900 middle school students over the course of 2 school years. After 2 years of data collection, I found that the positive peer relations arising from cooperative learning enhance the social-emotional skills such as empathy, reduce stress, and can give socially marginalized students the opportunity to build relationships with other students and broaden their social network. In turn, these social benefits create positive behavioral, academic, and mental health outcomes, including reductions in bullying. The improved peer relations that arise from cooperative learning can create a positive cascade of benefits for students. Citations are provided for those who would like additional detail. I should note that the effect sizes for these outcomes were moderate to large, which are 2 or 3 times larger than most commonly used prevention or social-emotional learning or SEL programs. This is probably because cooperative learning can be used in any subject all day long for the entire school year, while most prevention or SEL curricula are designed for much shorter implementations, even as little as 1 class period per week. Thus, cooperative learning can provide a much larger dosage and can be integrated into every aspect of the school climate. Cooperative learning also has powerful effects on student achievement. In a meta-analysis of more than 250 effects on student achievement, the jigsaw lesson, a form of cooperative learning, was found to have the 7th largest effect size, stronger even than a student's prior ability or self-efficacy. This means that the proper use of cooperative learning in the classroom can help teachers to overcome challenges that may otherwise prevent an at-risk student from achieving to their full potential. Interestingly, cooperative learning is very similar to contact theory, which specifies the conditions under which intergroup contact can reduce bias, prejudice, and discrimination. According to contact theory, individuals from different groups must be brought together as equals, with status differences minimized. The groups should have a common goal and be incentivized to work together. They must have extended time together with support for mutual disclosure to build relationships. Finally, there should be explicit support for positive social behavior in the groups. When these conditions exist, research finds that contact among members of different groups reduces perceptions of group differences and enables individuals to see one another as people instead of as stereotypes. The conditions put forth by contact theory mirror the design principles of cooperative learning very closely. As a result, research finds that cooperative learning can reduce bias and prejudice in the classroom and enhance interpersonal relationships across social boundaries, such as racial or ethnic groups. My own research builds on this, finding that cooperative learning can reduce disparities in social and academic outcomes among different groups, including racial and ethnic groups and students with disabilities. In this example, the solid lines represent intervention schools that use cooperative learning, and the dashed lines represent control schools, which were found to use very little cooperative learning. In the intervention schools, the students of color, represented by the solid green line, reported as much social support and as much academic engagement as white students. In control schools, however, there were significant disparities, where students of color reported significantly less support and less engagement than white students. Thus, cooperative learning can be used as a tool to reduce persistent disparities among underrepresented or marginalized groups and create equity in education. With all of this evidence supporting the positive effects of cooperative learning, you may wonder why it is not more prevalent. In my own work, I find that the design principles of cooperative learning are not widely understood, and thus small group work is often implemented in a much less structured manner. Even teachers that understand the design principles of cooperative learning can struggle to deliver a lesson effectively, given the complexity of something like a jigsaw lesson. Unfortunately, it is these more complex forms of cooperative learning, like the jigsaw, that include more extended social interaction, that yield the largest benefits for students. Recently, I have been involved in developing specific tools to assist teachers in implementing cooperative learning. There is a URL on this slide for those who would like additional detail. To illustrate some of the complexity involved in implementing cooperative learning, this is a list of all the tasks required of a teacher when delivering a jigsaw lesson, which again is one of the most powerful types of cooperative learning. Teachers must organize students, materials, and tasks, monitor the group work and the clock, and deal with students who arrive late or leave early, in addition to observing for the targeted social skill and helping students in groups that need help. Teachers must do all of these things simultaneously, and any slip in any of these areas can impact the quality of the lesson and the degree to which it can promote positive social and academic outcomes for students. Luckily, many of these things are rote tasks that can be better left to technology. In fact, technology can support most of these tasks, leaving the far more interesting and fun tasks to the teacher. This sort of technology support can free up the teacher to focus on their students rather than focusing on lesson logistics, while also guaranteeing a high-fidelity implementation of cooperative learning. In my pilot testing of the technology, it was amazing to me and the teachers how smoothly the lesson proceeded from start to finish. Every student knew who they were working with, what they were supposed to be doing, how much time they had, and what was coming next. There was no confusion, and the teacher was able to move around the room, supervise the student work, and answer questions about the learning materials, instead of questions about the lesson itself. As a result, teachers reported high degrees of satisfaction and perceived competence, and reported that their students were highly engaged in learning. The students themselves echoed this, reporting high engagement, enjoyment, and learning, and all wanted to use the technology again as soon as possible. When technology is designed from the start to support cooperative learning, it provides a dramatic contrast to current video conferencing tools, which implement a didactic approach that makes it extremely difficult to conduct a cooperative learning lesson online. Building the design principles into the technology and enhancing the technology to support remote delivery enables a teacher to conduct a cooperative learning lesson online as easily as in person. To summarize, my work finds that cooperative learning can contribute to reductions in bullying and victimization, as well as a host of other positive social-emotional, behavioral, and academic outcomes for students. Cooperative learning can also help to reduce disparities and promote equity for underrepresented or marginalized groups, like racial or ethnic groups or students with disabilities. Cooperative learning fits any curriculum, any grade level, and can be used all day long, any day of the school year. Finally, technology can make high-fidelity cooperative learning lessons more accessible, scalable, and sustainable. If you'd like to learn more, please feel free to email me at markv@uoregon.edu. Thank you for your interest, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.